Have you noticed the leaves changing colors and the temperatures getting cooler? Those are the telltale signs that fall has finally arrived. And for many birds, it's their cue to head south. Although many birds don't just start flying south at the first chill they get ruffling through their feathers. Instead, they rely heavily on weather patterns to move farther, faster, and smarter.
Once cold fronts come in, those inspire the birds to move either from their wintering grounds or if they're already on migration, to move during that front. And those winds, oftentimes around here, northwest winds, will really create some great updrafts as they hit our ridges, reflect that air upwards, and basically provides free transportation for these birds. Excellent conservation of energy as they migrate for miles a day, working their way down to the wintering areas.
Fall migration typically spans from August through October, but some shorebirds begin migration as early as late June, and some land birds end migration as late as December.
There's a couple factors that get these birds to migrate. Really, the main thing is motivation for food. For many of these birds, they might spend the winter here in Pennsylvania, depending on the species, or they may head south. But it's all going to depend on the resources they've got available.
There are two types of migratory birds: nocturnal and diurnal. Nocturnal migrants, which are typically long distance migratory birds like sparrows and thrushes, soar through the night and drop out in the mornings to refuel for their next nighttime flight. These migrants typically traverse along coastlines, ridges, and peninsulas with a southerly orientation. Diurnal migrants, on the other hand, which are typically larger birds like raptors, prefer to fly during the day.
A broad-winged hawk is named for its broad wings, and what they use those for is to ride thermals, which is just hot air that comes up off the ground, and they're going to ride that for as far as they can, and it just kind of lets them go on cruise control while they're just kind of floating over the and gliding.
Rarely do you get to see nocturnal and diurnal migrants fly together, but in extreme situations like geographic barriers or hurricanes, fallouts occur. This is when hundreds to thousands of birds congregate in a small geographic area to escape a challenging flight ahead. Fallouts can be seen during storms, fog, and even just ahead of a cold front when there are strong headwinds and the air is just too unstable for a smooth sailing, energy conserving flight. If birds were to fly through these draining conditions, they would likely become too stressed and weak to complete their migration. After those unfavorable conditions pass that have kept the birds bottled up in one area for a few days, spectacular flights take place. Most migratory birds require dry, cool air, clear skies, and northerly winds. One exception to these requirements are migratory birds on the west coast. They actually prefer to fly in easterly winds and tend to have large fallouts during Santa Anas, which are warm winds that push the birds westward and offshore, disorienting them. Well, regardless of where they are flying from, to make these long treks, migratory birds bulk up ahead of time.
Sometimes they're not going to be eating for a very long period of time, so they're going to eat as much as they can right before they migrate. And September is kind of the time whenever they're going to be migrating, and so they're going to be eating and eating and eating in late August and early September, just kind of getting ready for that migration. And they're going to be flying really long distances daily to try and make it down there as quick as possible.
Because these birds make their trips as fast as possible and their flight arrangements are based on the weather, these spectacular flights can be hard to witness. One website, birdcast.info, actually forecasts the migratory flights of different species to help you witness these events. If you want a good chance at seeing migratory birds in action just before sunrise the day after a cold front passes, head to an area with an open view of the sky on a high mountain in the extensive desert or on a north south oriented peninsula with a freshwater source nearby. Well, I think I'm in a pretty good location to see some migratory birds here at the Rothrock State Forest, and I think I will do just that. For Whether or Not, I'm Christy Stewart.